In this video, you're going to learn 10 diabetes myths that are harming your health. We're going to cover things like why diabetics can eat dried fruits, why you don't need to lose weight if you have diabetes, and more. So stay tuned throughout this video. My name is Igor. I'm the author of an Amazon best-selling book called Type 2 Diabetes Reversal Secrets. As well, I run an online personal training company that specializes in helping type 2 diabetics reverse their diabetes. It's called Fitness Solutions Plus. So let's jump in. In no particular order, myth number one is if you have family history of diabetes, you're going to get diabetes. Now, it's true that genetics do play a role, but genetics are not 100%. There's a saying that genetics loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. In other words, if you have the genetics for diabetes and you eat the same foods as your family who has diabetes, you will also likely develop diabetes. However, if your family has diabetes, they eat a certain kind of diet, but you eat a better diet, a diet that I discuss in my other videos linked in the description below, you're likely to not get diabetes, or your likelihood of getting diabetes is much less. Maybe the genetic contribution to type 2 diabetes is only about 40 or 50%, which means the environment, what you choose to do with your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep, your supplements, that accounts for 50 to 60%. So there's a lot of control in your hands. That is myth number one. Myth number two is that you have to lose weight to reverse your diabetes. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have weight to lose, weight loss will be beneficial for a lot of things. It'll be beneficial for your blood sugar, it'll be beneficial for your cholesterol, triglycerides, and many other health markers. But it's not a requirement in order to lower your blood sugar. In most research that's done on diabetes, where dietary changes are made and no weight is lost, but blood sugar still goes down. Where supplements are included and no weight is lost, blood sugar still goes down. Where exercise is introduced and blood sugar goes down, weight sometimes is not lost. So there is more than one way to lower blood sugar. Yes, it's probably going to be better if you lose weight along with it, but it's not a requirement. Just because you can't lose weight doesn't mean you can't lower your blood sugar. So it's very, very helpful to know that other lifestyle changes have benefits outside of their effects on weight loss. That's myth number two. Myth number three is that diabetes just comes with age. We see older people who have diabetes, and there are more older people with type 2 diabetes compared to younger people with type 2 diabetes. So we think that age is a causal factor. In other words, age causes diabetes. Age does not cause diabetes. Age simply amplifies bad habits. Let's say you're 25 years old and you don't exercise. While that's not good, it's not terribly bad either. Now, by the time you're 65 and you don't exercise, if you haven't exercised in 65 years, well, that's 40 years more than the 25-year-old. So it's just a bad habit that time has amplified. So age does not cause diabetes. It's all the other factors that cause diabetes. It's the bad habits built up over time, like nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, supplementation, etc. So just because you're of a certain age does not mean that diabetes is inevitable. And just because you are a diabetic at a certain age doesn't mean that it's not reversible. Myth number four is that diabetes can be cured. Here is the truth. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes has no cure. Now, I know this is going to sound weird coming from the author of a book called Type 2 Diabetes Reversal Secrets, but let's differentiate something. You can reverse diabetes, but you can't cure diabetes. What's the difference between a cure and reversal? A cure means that you make it go away permanently and there is nothing you can do to bring back your diabetes. But that's not true. You can reverse your diabetes by improving your exercise, your nutrition, your supplements, your lifestyle, etc. And I cover exactly how to do that in other videos, linked in the description below. But if you go back to what you used to do, if you go back to the way you used to eat, the way you used to exercise or not exercise, etc., your diabetes will likely return. So diabetes cannot be cured, but it can be reversed. Myth number five, diabetes is caused by an excess consumption of sugar. So excess consumption of sugar does not actually cause diabetes. It's not healthy, but it's not the root cause of diabetes. And I'll tell you why. Sugar is correlated to diabetes. That does not mean that sugar causes diabetes. For example, sunscreen is correlated to drowning, but it doesn't mean that sunscreen causes drowning. You know why people put on sunscreen? Because it's hot. You know why people go swimming? Because it's hot. It's really the temperature that causes more drowning because more people swim when it's warm out. But sunscreen does not cause drowning. Same thing with diabetes. While sugar is not a health food, it doesn't cause diabetes either. You can increase your consumption of sugar as long as it's within your caloric limits and you're getting an adequate amount of fiber, sleep, and exercise. Sugar in and of itself does not cause diabetes. Case in point, there was one study done where one group of diabetics were given sugar and a different group of diabetics were given an equivalent amount of calories in bread. So carbohydrates on both sides. And there was no more of an increase in blood sugar in the sugar group as there was in the bread group. They had an equal worsening of their diabetes. So there's no special properties to sugar beyond just its caloric content. And in my previous video, which is linked in the description below, I talk about why sugar although it doesn't have any effects beyond its caloric content, it makes you crave more food beyond satisfaction, and it makes you crave food for pleasure. So check that out as well. Myth number 6 is that if I have a high HbA1c or glycated hemoglobin, I am not a diabetic. Well, that may be the case. The vast majority of people with a normal HbA1c are not diabetics, but there are certain phenomena in medicine called false negatives. A false negative is when a test says that you don't have something when in fact you do. So what are factors that can cause false negatives in HbA1c? So it can give you a false sense of whether or not you're a diabetic. One factor is having high numbers of red blood cells. If you have high number of red blood cells, but your blood sugar is also high, but the red blood cells is higher than the blood sugar, it looks like your A1c is normal, but in fact it's actually high. What might cause high amounts of red blood cells? A number of different factors. One is supplementation with vitamins B12, folic acid, or having a high amount of iron. So there are certain conditions called hemochromatosis, thalassemia, and others that will cause a high amount of iron in the blood. So that's why having a normal A1c does not necessarily mean you're not a diabetic. Myth number 7 is that if I have a high HbA1c, I am a diabetic. Sometimes that's the case, a lot of times that's the case. However, that's not always the case. Just like there's false positives, there's also false negatives. In the previous myth, we discussed false negatives. Now we're going to discuss a false positive, which is when a test says you do have something when in fact you don't. So why might you have a high HbA1c if you're not a diabetic? The most common reason is low iron. If your iron levels are low but your sugar levels are normal, it looks like diabetes, but in fact it's not. It's important to look at other markers of blood like hemoglobin, red blood cells, and other markers related to iron carrying capacity and ferritin as well. Myth number 8 is that there's only one possible reason why you have high blood sugar. There's actually more than one possible reason. Of course, the big one is diet and lifestyle. That's a diet that is too high in calories, too low in fiber, and no exercise. But that's just one factor. There are other reasons why you might have high blood sugar. Reason number 1 is high cortisol. What cortisol does is it breaks down stuff like muscle and other factors that raises blood sugar levels. Another one is infection. Infection causes a rise in blood sugar levels. Same thing with inflammation. And another factor is high cholesterol and triglycerides. Sometimes people think that high cholesterol and triglycerides come after diabetes, but in many cases that actually comes before diabetes. These are just 4 factors, and there are others that I discuss in my book as well. Myth number 9, piggybacking on the previous myth, is that high blood sugar is always a problem and we should lower it no matter what. Well, we have to ask ourselves a deeper question. Why is blood sugar high? Sometimes, yes, the issue is lifestyle, and by improving exercise, nutrition, supplementation, and sleep, we can lower blood sugar levels. But if all these things are already good and blood sugar levels are still high, we have to ask ourselves, why does the body think that this is a beneficial reaction? In one study that I talk about in my book, there were patients who were terminally ill. They had something called sepsis, and in addition to sepsis, they had high blood sugar levels. The researchers gave them special medications to lower the blood sugar levels, and yet their death rate didn't change. So in this case, it was actually protective of their body compared to having normal blood sugar levels. So in the majority of situations in lifestyle medicine, by and large, type 2 diabetes is caused by poor diet, poor exercise or no exercise, not using the right supplements, and not sleeping. But in a very small number of cases, you shouldn't lower blood sugar without asking other questions. And myth number 10, in no particular order, is that type 2 diabetics should not eat dried fruits. That's a myth. Type 2 diabetics are welcome to eat dried fruits. What's the issue? Well, a lot of people know that high blood sugar is diabetes. Dried fruits are sweet, therefore it raises blood sugar, but it's not quite that simple. Thinking like that shows a misunderstanding or lack of knowledge in terms of what sugar actually is. Biologically speaking, there are 3 types of sugar: Glucose, like blood sugar, blood glucose, there's fructose, primarily found in fruits and honey and stuff like that, and galactose, largely found in milk. Glucose, as you might imagine, raises blood glucose the most and the fastest. A much lower amount is raised by fructose. Fructose doesn't raise blood glucose nearly to the same amount or with the same speed as glucose. And of course, galactose doesn't either. Fruits are largely fructose, not exclusively, but largely. That's reason number one why even dried fruits are fine for diabetics. Reason number two is that they are loaded with fiber. As I talk about in my other videos, fiber is the second greatest factor when it comes to diabetes reversal. For example, 3 dates might have 3 to 4 grams of fiber, and that's a lot. So fiber helps you lower your carbohydrate content. If you subtract the grams of fiber from the carbohydrates, you get a concept called net carbohydrates, which is the net amount of carbohydrates that actually go inside your body. But fiber has effects beyond just its effects on carbohydrates, because changing from a high carb diet to a low carb diet of the same calories only makes a difference of about 1% to HbA1c. Fiber, on the other hand, amplifying fiber content to what you're supposed to be getting has the potential to lower HbA1c by as much as 2.5%. So part of its effect is on carbohydrates, but it also has effects that aren't totally understood, but they are quite helpful. So dried fruits are perfectly fine for diabetics, and I talk about more research in my book. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. It will help you learn when I produce more videos like this, and it will help other diabetics be able to have proper information about diabetes. Thank you, and goodbye.